name is Chris Gaffney. I'm from County Westmeath in Ireland. I came to Canada in 1968 at the age of 19. I came with my brother-in-law, and because we were both farmers, I'm a farmer's son, we were sent to London, Ontario. That was on a Friday we landed. On Monday morning we boarded a bus and we were coming to Toronto. But we saw, we were passing by Hamilton and we saw what we thought was a lot of work going on, so we stopped there. I was an apprentice butcher at the time in Ireland, so I was looking for work in that area. And I did get work. One of the gentlemen that I met, he put me in touch with a fella he knew in Steinberg's. I worked there for quite a while, probably about 9 months. I didn't really like it because I was put in a cold room and pretty well was just boning meat and dressing meat. I didn't have much interaction with the customers. Stelco was hiring at the time, the big steel company in Hamilton, and I decided I'd try that. And I did, and I worked there for a couple of years. My brother was here in Toronto. He came over at a later time, about a month after we came. So I decided to come to Toronto. And I got a job back into the butchering business in Canada Packers. It turned out to be more of the same. I had a good friend I met in here in Toronto, and he worked in Sudbury, Ontario. So he talked me into going up to Sudbury, Ontario, which was booming at that time. And I spent a couple of years up there in the smelter in Coppercliff. And I got fed up with that too. So came back to Toronto and I signed up with 183. And that was, I believe, January 1974. My first job, shortly after I came back to Toronto, was from Michael Riley. I went to see him and he got me in with a company called GM Guest, a utilities company. That was a hard job, kind of jackhammering the frozen soil looking for cables. So it was kind of hurry up but be very careful. You'd have to drive probably maybe an hour in some cases, but you didn't get paid until you arrived on the site, usually 7 o'clock. You'd be in primarily a cargo van or a little truck that was covered in. And you'd probably be sitting on top of your jackhammer at best. Things rattling around. I don't know what would have happened if there had been an accident. We probably would have got whacked with a shovel or something. But it was rather dangerous. Safety was poor. You were required to wear a hard hat and boots, but they never provided gloves or any sort of other safety equipment. And it was the winter time when I worked there, and it was hard, you know. They'd put you in maybe digging a hole to locate cables, maybe on your own some days. It was cold, and you know, you had no shelter to get away from anything. Not even a bottle of water. So it was hard going. There's no doubt about it. Yeah, jackhammer was usually about 45, 50 pounds in weight. So it got heavier as the day went along, of course. And you had to be very careful because you were looking for cables and they weren't always marked. So, you know, if you cut the cable or damaged it, it was a big problem. And unfortunately, one day I did cut one, quite a big one. I think I put the airport out. So that lasted for a while. And then I think I got a job on a pipeline. And I liked that. The first one I worked on at Young and Finch was a pipeline to carry crude oil, I believe. My first job there was to clear the right-of-way. I was on a gang that went and cut down bushes and took down hedges or any obstacles that were going to be in the way for the pipeline to run through. And after that, the excavation had already begun as we went along, and it was put back on what they call backfilling the pipe. The loader would put the sand in, and we'd come along with an air hose. You know, we had the compressor and the air hose, and we'd have water to pack the sand down. Of course, the hours were long, and although we were well paid, there's no doubt about it. It was a good job, and I had a lot of fun on it too. A lot of the crew was people that I knew. You know, we had a good time. Working beside the different people on the crew was great. There was certainly a good mixture of Irish, Portuguese and Italian for the most part, and some Canadians, some East Coast Canadians. We got along well. Road building and reconstruction, I suppose, was with Wimpy Canada, and my introduction to that was on the 401, the Hogs Hollow Bridge. The bridge was in bad repair. The concrete was rotting, and the rebar in it was certainly gone, very bad. So we had to resurface the whole deck of the bridge. It was quite a job, a lot of jackhammer work. Very difficult. It was summertime, and oh God, the heat was unbelievable. There was periods of time in the early 80s where I had trouble getting work. But I did start work with a company called Begg & Daigle. They were a store and office company. They did renovations and built stores, usually in shopping malls. But we always got laid off at Christmas, of course. Nobody wanted in their store around Christmas. But I was lucky in the sense that if I knew there was a pipeline job coming, I had the freedom to quit that job and go on the pipeline, and I'm going to be finished on the pipeline and go right back. When I knew there was a pipeline job coming, and I made a few phone calls, did a bit of networking, put your transfer into either Sudbury or Thunder Bay or London, Ontario or Hamilton, wherever the case might be. So I would go and take my my card from 183 or 506, whichever I was in at the time, and bring it to the appropriate place. Sometimes the jobs could be in 2 jurisdictions. You could be in a local in Sudbury, and the jobs were spread out so far with the geography, of course, of Ontario. Sometimes they would need to put you into Thunder Bay. So sometimes they would change you and you wouldn't even know which local you were in. But it certainly worked good for me anyway.